Hi, I'm Terrell Sanders. I'm the Executive Director of MinistryCOM. This is our second monthly webcast. This month we've got the group for Henderson Hills here to talk about how they do communications. For those of you that aren't familiar with MinistryCOM, we're a national organization. We support church communications. We have a national conference coming up in October 20th and 22nd in Dallas. Details are online on our website, MinistryCOM.org. We've got several different tracks. We've got a boot camp track, a basic training track, a pastor's track, and we also have probably the only conference that's specifically for church communications. So if you're in church communications and you need information like what you're going to see today, MinistryCOM will be a great resource for you. We've also got over 60 educational sessions on our website. They're ranging about $10 a piece usually. You can download those off our website. Take a look at the resources tab on our website. We offer these webcasts on the third Thursday of every month at noon Central Time. We will be recording these, so if this is not a good time slot for you, then these will be recorded, these will be posted on the website. We're hoping that people can use these things to form local groups. So we've worked with local groups in the past. We've had trouble with local groups having good content, and so we're trying to use these as an outreach tool and also to provide some support to people that can't make it to our national conference. And I would ask that as we look at promoting our national conference coming up in October, please help us spread the word on that. We have a Facebook page for MinistryCOM. Go to our Facebook page and mark that yes, you are attending, and tell your friends and help us spread the word on that. The format today, we're going to have some presentation from the Henderson Hills group, and then toward the end we'll have a break where we'll be able to take some questions and answers. Go ahead and as you have questions, send questions in. You can use the tool on the live stream, or you can just email questions to info@ministrycom.org. If you don't want to create a live stream account, then just email your questions. But go ahead and send those questions in to us so we'll know what's coming up, and we'll be ready to answer those toward the end of the presentation. We've got today Jeff Wilson, who is the Pastor of Communication and Innovations at Henderson Hills. He's also a director of MinistryCOM, been a very close friend of mine for a long time. Jeff's just come back from a European vacation, and so we're not
with the Griswolds.
We're not very fond of him today, but we are hoping that he's suffering painfully from jet lag. So, Jeff, introduce your team to us.
I would love to do that. This is Lindsay Robinson. Lindsay is one of our graphic designers, and she has been with us for almost a year, coming up on a year. Yeah, full time. She came on board first part of January. So real excited to have her with us. And then we have Eric Granada. Eric's our senior graphic designer, and Eric's been with us for 4 years. 4 years. I thought it was longer than that. Seems like it was longer.
Sunday. Does it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Eric's main responsibilities is to obviously do graphic design for us, but then he also does oversees our web content, and we're going to be talking a little bit about some of the web content that we do through e-newsletter that's also available on our website as well. Lindsay oversees our bulletin, and then she's also one of our graphic designers, so she's heavily involved in that as well. And we were thinking, whenever Terrell asked us to come and to do this, we thought it'd be good to kind of walk through the process of how we go through and do communication at Henderson Hills. And we decided to kind of focus in on two of the main things that we spend a lot of time on and that are great tools for us as far as being able to get information out to the people, both inside Henderson Hills and then outside of it as well. So we're going to be focusing on two things. One, our bulletin, that's something that we do weekly. And then the other thing is what we call the top 5. It's our e-newsletter that we send out to anyone who's a member of our church, that we've got their email address, or if somebody's even not a member of our church and we have their email, we're sending it out to them as far as subscribers. And then if we've got time, we thought that we would walk through something that we actually got from Granger Community Church. It's a project request form, and how we have it changed and adapted that to fit at Henderson Hills, and then go through and talk about the process of using that project request. That's really been a great tool that we implemented, I guess it was 4 years ago, and it's been a really helpful tool for us. But we're going to start out with the bulletin. We do a weekly bulletin. It's available to everyone who comes to one of our 3 weekend services. We have a weekend service on Saturday night, and then we have 2 on Sunday morning. And we've got ushers and greeters at the front of our entrances, and as soon as somebody walks into the worship center, they're handed a bulletin. We've made many different changes in our bulletin in the almost 10 years that I've been at Henderson Hills. It started out being a page that was literally this big, folded in half. So it was a 8.5 by, it was 11 by 17 piece of paper. And not only did we hand it out, but then we also mailed that out to everyone. So it was very costly, not just to put together, but then also to distribute to everyone. And there's probably been about 5 different versions. We're going to talk a little bit about the version that we have right now. But what we wanted to share with you, because it's a little bit different, I think, than how some churches go through and get the content and then put together their bulletin. We wanted to share with you our process. It all starts out on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. We have a regularly scheduled bulletin meeting. And anyone that's on staff, even including AAs, are invited to come to that bulletin meeting. And it's at that point that we go through and we build out what's going to be the content of the bulletin. I am the one that leads that meeting. We take content that we had from the last week, put it onto the board. We have a great big whiteboard in a conference room that we have at our offices. I put the content that's still relevant, or if people are asking for content to carry over from week to week, we put the content up there. And then we go through and we discuss among usually a group of about 15 to 20 people that show up at the meeting. And we discuss what's the most applicable to go into the bulletin, and there's a give and a take. And we go through and try to figure out, without too much bloodshed, as far as who gets an article into the bulletin. We do have to go through and make some tough decisions at times. That's usually based off of, mainly because we only have so much landscape to work with in a bulletin, and then we have to go through and prioritize what is the most important information that needs to get out right now. So time relevancy has a lot to do with it. And then it also has to do with a number of people that the event that they're trying to promote, that it's going to go out to as well. But I'm going to let Lindsay take it from here, and she's going to kind of walk through after our meeting, what are the things that take place either behind the scenes or within our staff, Lindsay, as far as getting that bulletin ready to go out into people's hands.
Well, like Jeff said, after our meeting, all the articles have been decided and confirmed. And through that, all either the administrative assistants or anybody that's turned in an article will send that to us, and we will just organize that into 5 different categories. We have a connect, grow, serve, and engage, and then an other. And those articles are all 80 words or less. We work on a legal size sheet of paper as our bulletin size. And I think this is online for you guys to download.
Yeah, we have a link on the MinistryCOM.org/live page. There's a link that's got a zip file with the samples they're going to show here. So you can download those during the conference or during the session or afterwards.
And it's actually this week's bulletin.
Yeah, it's this week's bulletin. So anybody at Henderson Hills, you can get a sneak peek, but still come to the service. In the front of our bulletin, we've gone through different changes since I've been working here. We used to do our sermon series on the front, but we became to realize that it really would be a great use of the size of paper for a bulletin to really emphasize certain events that are going on, or just different things we really think that are going to affect the entire congregation. This week we're emphasizing middle school camp. It's the last week to sign up, and so we'll either use the artwork for that, or we'll put the article actually on the front. And within inside of it, we have, a little section, just our welcome and our purpose statement that is always there every week, and just a little map of the building for any newcomers. And then it just goes straight into the connect, and just really putting the articles in there real tightly, but still very readable. We always put, contact information and the title of the article. And then on the back, we just really try to focus on, we put a small calendar just for upcoming events. If I can make it fit, I try to put as many months as I can on there. And then at the bottom, we just use our Connect With Us, which is really just emphasizing that we use, our Flickr account, how to reach us on Twitter, and just viewing the top 5 too, which Eric is going to talk about in a little bit. And And
I think
that's
it'd be
really
good for us to talk about why we have Connect, Grow, Serve, and Engage. We have a purpose statement at our church, and then we've got four what we call priorities that help us to achieve our purpose statement, and that's the Connect, Grow, Serve, and Engage. And we thought it would be good just to help carry through that theme, and then also the way in which we're trying to process everything that we do at the church by setting up our bulletin. So in the defining of what's going to be in the bulletin, we also have to define where that article is going to go within the bulletin as well. And what it's helping us to do is to continue to convey what are the four priorities of our church. And whenever somebody goes in and looks at an article, they will be able to see very quickly where it fits within that. That's been something new that we've really, I guess we started doing that 2 years ago, I think. And it's been good to help us to continue to keep in front of our church people what are our four priorities. And our teaching pastor and teaching team continues to do that as well. But that's just another way to reinforce that with our congregation.
Yes, and with different events, if the article is, say, in a Connect event, we have banners and things throughout our church, and different advertisements and things that go out will have the Connect logo on there and the little icon.
Now, why you just quickly said 80 words or less? Why don't you talk on or tell everyone why we limit it to 80 words or less?
Well, 80 words or less, I mean, since I am working on a legal size paper, 80 words is about as much as I can fit on there. It also just gives them a point of, in the article, they just need to know the who, what, why, and where, and so that once those points are addressed, we give them, the information to either go to the website or a phone number to contact to get more information. And that's all that's really needed in a bulletin article. The bulletin article is not the end all of getting the information, it's just to point out, where we can find it.
So we do have a title for the article, and then right underneath it is contact information as far as if they have any questions or if they want to take an action step. It's got the email address of the person to contact, and then also a telephone number as well. And then it's got the article underneath it. And what we're keeping at 80 words or less is the article length. It doesn't include the title and everything like that. So after we've decided what articles we're going to put in, how are all of those articles compiled?
We then put them into Basecamp, which is our ground where we all, as a communications team, can get together and proof it and really see all the events that are going on. That helps within, making sure all the projects are getting done, and also helping with the top 5 in our website. And we have an online bulletin too where we post it, and that comes from our Basecamp.
But we use we used to go through and type out all of the articles, and then we'd have hard copies that we'd pass out to everyone, and we'd only get like 2 people who would actively go through and edit those for us. So we decided, let's just try to do this electronically. That's where we went in and started using Basecamp, and it's been a really great workflow. From the workflow process for us, it's a great tool for us to be able to, everyone knows where the information is. It keeps edits all together in one spot, and then we can take that, and Lindsay takes it and copies and pastes it straight into InDesign, and that's what we use to lay out the bulletin as well as InDesign.
And it's also great to just go back and see archives if we need to see past articles or anything. It's all right there.
Okay, so after that's done, when are the articles due?
The articles are due at Tuesday at 4.
Okay.
So from our Monday meeting, we basically have a day and a half to get all the articles in.
Okay, so Monday at 4, they all send those to Sarah, who's our administrative assistant. She puts everything into Basecamp. Then we all go through as a staff and do the editing process on it. And then when do you start laying everything out?
Late Wednesday afternoon or Thursday. It's I'm usually printing by Thursday morning. So everything lays out, and it usually takes me only 30 minutes to lay everything out, just because we already have it so organized in Basecamp, and I just use a template that I have made up in there with our headers of our Connect, Grow, Serve, and Engage, and it's a very smooth, easy process.
And you guys are one of the only churches in the world that refers to creating your brochure as a smooth and easy process.
Well, it hasn't always been that
Well,
way.
Yeah.
as long as the articles are, turned in on time and everything's, under.
There's
Sarah,
people all over the country right now shaking their hands at the screen.
Yeah.
Going, yeah, you
Throwing
haven't seen
stuff at
mine.
their screens.
Yeah, it really only takes about 30 to 40 minutes to get all laid out and to get it,
Well, and part of that whole process is, the whole thing hasn't been an easy step.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an education process with our staff to go through and say, hey, we're on a deadline, and if you want an article in, we can't hold up the printing process just because you have been inefficient in the use of your time. And some of them have not gotten their article into the bulletin, and once one or two times you suffer a consequence.
They don't do it again.
Yeah, I don't usually speed because I don't like paying tickets. And so, if you don't want to get your article in time, then it's all right.
Miss it,
Yeah,
right?
you're not going to miss it too much. So we get all our articles in, you lay it all out, and then you start printing it on usually Thursday morning.
Yeah, Thursday morning,
Yeah.
Wednesday afternoon.
And how many bulletins do we usually run?
We usually run 2,300.
Okay.
But it varies. I think the most we've ever run since I've been there was the 4,000,
Right.
and that was for Easter.
Right.
But yeah, it's usually around that number.
And our church, every church is different, but our church, we encourage people to bring their whole entire family. So that bulletin's being handed out not just to adults, but it's to children as well. We've got roughly our average attendance at our church over the weekend is around 2,800. So we don't even print up enough to cover everyone that's being there. And we the number that we print fluctuates based off of past information that we have as far as who attends. So after you get through printing everything, what's the next step?
Well, then I box it up and I take it to one of our conference rooms where every Thursday afternoon we have a group of people that come in and stuff them. And what they stuff in them, we do a worship guide every week, which has our sermon notes in it. And as you can see, it just kind of fits in there. It's an 8.5 11 sheet of paper, and it's just cut in half. And they will stuff that inside. And we also have, every once in a while, this is not something that happens every single Sunday or every single service time, but we do an insert for different things. Like this week, we're doing an insert for our Vacation Bible School is having, they have information that is just too much to put into the bulletin and really needs to get into the hands of our congregation.
So we do have inserts, but we really try not to put those in every week. And when we do an insert, we try to limit the number of inserts that we put in, because we don't want it looking like a Sunday paper where you get the bulletin and 50 things fall out of it as well. And again, that's been a process to go through with our church staff. Is not everyone's going to get an insert, not everyone's going to get their article put on the front page. And that's not an easy thing. Making a tough decision, making a tough call is not an easy thing to do. But having that whole team there on that Monday morning has really helped to take the heat off of us making the decisions, and it's really become a give and take among the whole entire staff. And I think that's a kind of a key important thing to talk about. Is it's helped us to break down little ministry silos that can easily be erected within a church staff. We're all working together to try to achieve the same purpose, and that's been real helpful with that. So after our volunteers come in and fold everything, then our custodians take them up to the worship center for us, and then they're handed out. But we also not only have it in a hard copy that's handed out, we decided to start making this available on our website as well. I'm going to let Eric talk about that just a little bit, as far as getting the information, the content onto the website, not just the main church website, but then even our mobile site as well.
The process for posting the bulletin information on the website is just go to Basecamp, where we have our finalized copy, and really just copy and paste it onto our bulletin page, which is accessible on the main website. But we also have a link on our mobile website to the weekly bulletin that if you tap on that, then it'll have all the week's information there. The email addresses and the phone numbers are also now clickable. So if you want to shoot an email off to somebody or give a phone call, you can right from your iPhone.
Yeah.
Preferably.
I used to be a student pastor, and whenever I was a student pastor, I used to get all of these kids coming up saying, I didn't know that this was going on. Yeah. So my whole idea was I'm going to try to take away as many excuses as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing that we're trying to do with this, is we're trying to put the information out in as many different areas to where people can have access to it. And I think it's been really useful for people to be able to have that on their mobile device. So if they think, oh, where did I put my bulletin, they can pull it up on their phone and then send off an email or make a phone call real quickly.
Well, and something else I'm hearing from you guys, because I've seen this with other churches, is with Basecamp, you're using the same article. You're not writing a new article for the website, a new article for the text message,
Exactly.
a new article.
Mm-hmm.
And because some of the other church comm directors that I've worked with say, well, we just can't do the website on top of the bulletin.
Mm-hmm.
We've already do the bulletin. It takes 7 days now. I can't do a website also. I can't do Facebook also, because it's like a whole different publication. And you're cutting and pasting the same note in there over and over again, which is,
Exactly.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that everything that goes out on all of the different platforms that we have is the exact same information, so it's not confusing to people. Yeah, that's a great point. All right. Well, so that's that's probably one of the main ways that we communicate with our people. It's hard for us to tell how effective our bulletin is. And it at times becomes a little bit discouraging whenever you walk into the worship center and you see 50% of the bulletins that are still laying on the pews. But I do look during the sermon and I see people reading the bulletin, so I think it's still a very effective tool for us to be able to communicate with our church people, especially with a lot of content. And then that goes to the next thing that we wanted to talk about, and that's our top 5. I made a decision about 3 years ago to not do an e-newsletter. I just thought it was ineffective. I didn't think that anybody was looking at them. We had no way to really even see if they were being opened because of the way in which we were sending those out. But then 2 years ago, and I've forgotten exactly what changed my mind on this. I sat down with
me.
It was Terrell. That's what it was. It was.
He
Terrell.
doesn't remember that part.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I thought it was a little angel on
Yeah,
my
or
shoulder.
red
You
one,
and the
white
angel
one,
on my
one of
shoulder.
those two,
Yeah,
yeah.
same thing. We just made the decision that we're going to try this. We're going to see if it's going to be effective. So we started again putting together, but this time we wanted to find a tool, something that would be able to get the email out, that we could easily track how many times it's been opened. We wanted to see how effective, because we could spend a lot of our time doing things that are ineffective, and that just doesn't seem like good stewardship. So we started doing the top 5. There's a ton of different ways that you can lay one out, where it can be all text, or it can be all graphics, or it can be a combination of the two. What we thought it would be good to do is to start out by just putting together an e-newsletter, just getting information out about a very limited amount of things. And so we came up with the top 5. Here are the top 5 things that you need to know this week. And that really helps us determine what's going to be the content of the top 5 each week. But then it's also not so much verbiage on this email that people are having to wade through to figure out what is the most important. So there's some problems with only doing 5 things every now and then, because everybody thinks that what they're doing should be in the top 5, and I get to answer all of those emails that come in saying, why didn't you put my thing into the top 5? But honestly, it's been I've been surprised at how little pushback that we've had from it, and I think a lot of that has been because of how useful that we found it being. Eric is the one that puts the top 5 together. So why don't you go through and talk about, let's start with the meeting part of it, and then talk about how we go through and put together our top 5.
Okay. So after our Monday morning meeting where we discussed the bulletin, everybody leaves, and the communications team will look at what's on the board at this point and try to pick out the articles that have a time-sensitive nature to them, specifically for the coming week. And so we'll pull content from there, and if there's we'll look at our calendar, and if there's another event or a registration deadline coming up within the next 7 days, then we'll put that on the list of things to consider for the top 5, and then just talk it out and see which articles or events are going to affect the most amount of people, and that's basically how we decide what will be in the top 5 this week. We use Constant Contact for our vendor, and they're available at constantcontact.com, and they provide some pretty great templates where you can make your own, and then they provide some really insightful analytics, open rates, how often specific links in your email are getting clicked on, if they're getting forwarded, and then it also provides opt-in services as well, so you can put a form up on your website so people can sign up for the top 5.
Why did we make the decision to, other than all of the analytical type tools that we can get with it, what's another reason why we went with Constant Contact? Do you remember what that was? We were sending ours out via email through Outlook before.
That's the hard way.
It's not just a hard way, it's a really ineffective way. Unless you want to get blacklisted,
Yeah.
then it's a really effective way.
It's an easy way to get blacklisted.
to get
yes.
blacklisted. So we were getting all of these emails bounce back to us.
Right.
So that was one of the main reasons why we quit doing the e-newsletter at the start. What Constant Contact does is it sends out, you import in all of the emails, the email addresses of your congregation, and then it sends it out, but it sends them out individually. So and they've also worked with major internet service providers to make sure that they're not going to get blacklisted. They've got them on a whitelist. So just in that, if I was going to encourage anyone to do anything, that would be the first thing to do in sending out an e-newsletter, is stop using Outlook and start using a service that's going to send it out individually to all of the members that you're trying to send it out to.
And we'll make questions. Go ahead and post them on the discussion there. If you don't want to create an account, you can just email your questions to info@ministrycom.org, and I'll get those. We're going to go ahead and let these guys go for about 5 more minutes because they've got quite a bit more material. So with them talking about 5 minutes or so, we'll start taking some questions. We've got a few coming in, and I appreciate it. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Our top 5 weekly email is sent out. We send out an HTML version and a text version. This is the HTML version that looks like this, except on your screen, obviously. But we usually pick one event to feature, and this week we're featuring our middle school camp because it's the last week to register, and you'll see it kind of ties in with our bulletin cover. So we got some consistency happening here. And then we have 4 other articles that we highlight. This week we've got one on the Stephen Ministry, and then some volunteer opportunities and that kind of thing. And again, these are just events that are either happening in the next week or registration has just opened up. There's an action step relating to these articles. And so if the user clicks on any one of these images, it takes them to our website. So we're using the email newsletter to drive traffic to our website. We also have a link here to let people forward the email to their friends. Now the text version of the email also includes the actual content, the article, and it's usually real brief, as well as a link to the website. I'm
going to break in here just for a second. We found some interesting information related to the size of the article. You would think that the larger one would get the most number of links or click-throughs to it. That's not necessarily true. It's all dependent upon what's interesting to the people that are looking at the e-newsletter. So just because we put our church staff thinks that whatever is big is going to get clicked on the most, but we kind of go back and share with them through the statistics that we're able to compile that it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're not up here that you're not going to get click-throughs down here. So I just thought that was really interesting in looking at all of the statistics that we're looking at on a regular basis.
The other way that the top 5 goes out is we have a web page with all the articles that are in the top 5. So if somebody wants to go to that web page, it's set up as a blog so they can subscribe to the blog if they'd rather do it that way. We also post the headlines from our top 5 onto some digital signage that we have throughout our campus. So that entire week, there's a ticker along the bottom of the screen that has the headline and a quick line from each article that's in our top 5, just kind of as a reminder. Do you remember our opening rate?
Our opening rate's right around 25 to 30% on a weekly basis, which most marketing people will tell you that if you get anything above 8%, you're doing really, really good. So this has become a real effective tool for us to get information out to our church members. And we can tell that not just by looking at the statistics, but when we send it out, we usually send it out on Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. And it's been interesting to get feedback from our staff saying, hey, within 10 minutes after we sent that out, we're already getting telephone calls for people to sign up for an event or to volunteer. So we've got immediate buy-in from our church staff that this is a real effective tool because they're seeing results, very tangible results that's affecting their ministries. So we're not even having to promote this anymore. They're coming to us saying, hey, we want to make sure that our event's getting into the top 5. And I think there's only been like 2 or 3 times that somebody's requested in the 2-year process that somebody's requested to be in the top 5 and we weren't able to honor their request. It may not be immediately when they request that we get it in, but we're pretty good at somehow or another, we like to say yes to the people. We don't like saying no. We have to sometimes, but we would rather say, yeah, we can do that, but let's look at some other options on how we can achieve what you're trying to achieve there.
Yeah, the email, the immediate feedback of email.
Yeah.
If you come from any kind of traditional advertising where you buy advertising and then you wait to see if next month's sales increase, I mean, man, email is just so wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so great. You send an email out and you see people hitting your website. Oh, they read it. They actually clicked on the link. This is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And you can tell when you're saying things that they're not, if the big article isn't the one that they're looking at, then you know it. It's like, well, we thought this is important, but everybody else liked item number 3, so. And
we've actually used the statistics to be able to go back to someone who was really upset that they felt like that they didn't get the promotion that they should have gotten. And we've been able to go through with the statistics that we have from our website and then also the statistics from the e-newsletter to go back and say, hey, it's not necessarily that we're not communicating it well, it's just that what you're trying to promote is not meeting a need. That's not always a fun conversation to have with people, but we've got at least some data that we can say that this is really showing us something. Eric mentioned one thing, and I'd just like to quickly pitch. Eric, we've been looking for something at our church that we could put up on the LCD screens that we have as far as digital signage that we could control other than back in our production room, which meant that only the people that worked back in the production room controlled when it was on and when it was off. And Eric and I brainstormed a lot together, and he went to work and he found some products that he put all together. And we've got some digital signage, at least all of it. It's kind of a complete package that if somebody wanted to get it, you could contact us and we'd be glad to send you all the information about it so that you could use it at your church, and it's not going to cost you anything other than any fees that you'd have to pay to use the third-party programs that's out there. but it's real easy to use. We're using Google Calendar to help feed the information to the digital signage, and it doesn't cost you a whole lot. If you've looked at digital signage, it can get pricey real quick. And so that's the reason why we went through and did it this way, and it's very, very effective. It's been really cool to watch people walk through our lobby area and stop like they were in an airport, and they're sitting there looking at what's scrolling through and reading it. And so, again, it's just another effective way for us to get information out to people.
You see me sneaking looks at the questions off screen here. Go ahead. You were going to talk about the project requests?
Yeah, we've got the last thing that we wanted to talk about was something that we actually learned about this, or got the idea, by going to MinistryCOM for the very first time.
Very good.
Yeah, there's a little plug
That's
for
right.
MinistryCOM.
That's right.
Eric and I went. It was 4 years ago. Four years ago, we went to the one that was in Phoenix, and Kim Meyer was the one that was talking about how they do graphics at Granger Community Church. And she said this project request, and it was like this light bulb went off on at the same time for both Eric and for myself. We've got to have something like that. So they were so gracious to send us their project request. We sat down and figured out what changes we needed to make it usable at Henderson Hills, which I would really encourage you, every time you go to a conference, always run it through the filter of how it's going to work in your church. Just don't take it and try to implement it. I've made a ton of mistakes by doing that. So what we do with the project request, this is the actual form, and again, you can get it online. We've got some links there at ministrycom.org where you can download that and look at it. Anytime someone comes to us saying, hey, I'd like for you to do this for us, we listen to them, and then at the end of the process we say, that's great, we'd love to help you with that, but we need for you, the very first action step is to fill out one of these project request forms. Now, why would we have them fill out a form? It's good for them in one way to go through and to think through exactly what they're asking for us to do. And then it's good for us to know exactly what they're asking for us to do. It's taken a lot of the confusion, and it really has taken a lot of the extra steps where we were going through and designing something or creating something that they weren't even wanting. So it's helped save us, but then it's also just a great way for us to use as a workflow process. So once a project request is turned in, they turn that into me, and then I sit down with Eric and with Lindsay, and we take a look at the schedule and try to keep their workloads the same. We've got big projects that take a lot of time to go through, and then we've got smaller projects. So we all work together. We three work together to find out who's going to be the best person to work with it, who is interested, who is excited about working with it, and then we make the assignment. And then why don't you guys go through? Why don't you guys talk about what's on the actual project request form that's helpful to you as a graphic artist?
We have a couple minutes because we need to go ahead and get to the questions.
Okay. Obviously, we have a section on here called the facts, and that's where they tell us the who, what, where, when, why, how, what action steps they're wanting people to take, and that's just from a logistical standpoint really useful information to have, and kind of cuts down on the back and forth. Hey, let's have a meeting and talk for half an hour about the project and another hour about other stuff. So that, and really the rest of the form really cuts out a lot of time in meetings. And then we have another part on here called concept, where if they have any ideas as far as creative goes, they can give it to us there. Personally, I like to have some ideas to work with. It's good to have something to kind of spring off of. Plus, if they have something in mind already, we can deliver something that they want rather than something that goes in a completely different direction, and then we end up
waste time.
Yeah.
And we've done that a few times, and that's really frustrating. And then we've got a section that says deliverables, and it's just all the different ways in which they want the graphic designed for a specific use. And then down on the bottom, it's what's the different content that's going to be included in it. Is it just graphic? Do you need photos? how's it gonna be used? And then we take all of this information and we put it into Basecamp again. And that information goes into Basecamp, and then whoever's filled out the project request is then part of that collective community that's going through and looking at the timelines on it, and we set timelines as far as when we need information and when we're going to produce something, and then when we need feedback for it, so that we can get that information out for all the deliverables, like a t-shirt, or if we're going to start advertising, or if we're going to need to send it out for printing or anything like that. All of that's put into Basecamp. That took a little bit of time for our church staff to get used to, is using another tool that they had absolutely no experience with it at all. But I think most everyone is pretty comfortable with it now, and they know that if they want to look at the information or if they want to give feedback, that's where it has to go, because we keep directing them. Okay, have you looked at this? No, we'll get online and take a look at it, and we can actually tell if they've looked or not on it, because it tells you when's the last time that, or if ever, they've logged in to the account as well. Anything else you guys have about the project request that you think might be helpful? How has this helped you?
Well, this has really just been a way for me to be able to set a schedule for myself on my workload. I really can see, I can see the date when this is due, and I can see when I need to be able to go and talk to the person that's in charge of the project, and if I need to set up meetings with them. It's just a really great way of just seeing the whole concept of the project from their view. Maybe if it's a project we've done in the past, like Vacation Bible School, for example, when they turn in a project for that, I'm able to really see what they have envisioned for this next year to be. And it just really starts like an easy way of an organized conversation with them. And it's a great way to get the project done.
We've got some questions coming in from the studio audience here, or I guess the internet audience. How many people are on your staff? How many volunteers do you use? What's your team consist of?
Well, our team consists of everyone that you see right here, except for
me.
Except for our administrative assistant, who works part-time, and she works Monday through Wednesday, and she's the one that compiles all the information for us, and then also takes care of all of the paperwork, like billing and dealing with vendors and things like that for us, phone calls and stuff. So it's
and
really
you're all full-time?
Yes.
Full-time. Right.
All three of us are full-time, and then we've got a part-time administrative assistant. Okay. Volunteers, as far as that come in and help us with the stuffing of the bulletins, there's usually
4.
Yeah, 4 people.
Okay.
There's 4 people, and then on big Easter and Christmas and things, of course, we have more people come in. But
yeah. And we're getting
but you
ready.
don't have any volunteers involved in the content creation. You're just using them for stuffing stuff.
Yeah, they're just
other than if we do have lay ministers, people that are members of our church that aren't on staff, that oversee ministries, and we're working with them to get the content out. So have no idea how big.
Yeah, but they're not
that would
helping you
include.
create it.
No.
You mentioned, we had mentioned that the same data gets duplicated in different places. Do you get complaints with that being redundant? I mean, do people complain about the same information over and over again? I
have never heard one complaint about that. Now, where we do hear complaints is where there's conflicting information. But no, I've never heard one complaint of it. We're just reading the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. And that's a question that I've heard before from people too, that don't centralize the data, is, people get bored. And it's like, I've never heard that complaint, because they typically are only seeing it a few times in their pet mediums, and
exactly.
I haven't ever heard complaints about that. How often do you publish your top 5?
Once a week.
Once a week.
Every Thursday goes out at 10 o'clock. And we've kind of set that schedule just so that people can know and start getting used to receiving it. And then we think that that's a good schedule for us as well, as far as sending it out on Thursday. It gives people enough time to respond if they need to get in touch with the office, and then also make plans for the weekend. Because a lot of our events and the things that we're promoting happen that weekend. So we didn't want to send it out too early. They'd forget about it. But if we send it out on Friday at 5, then many people wouldn't even have enough time to open it up.
Yeah. And do you send out departmental newsletters or departmental emails? Do other ministries have their own newsletters that you provide?
At this point in time, no. Not that that may happen in the future, but at this point in time, no, we don't do that. Now, the website that we use has a blog feature on it, and that's a way that we're communicating to our church staff, and then we're asking them to communicate to their constituents that if they want to know what's going on in their ministry, it's better to have a centralized point, and that centralized point is the website, and they can go there for that information.
Okay. And that kind of dovetails in the next question that came in off the system there is, how do you keep your non-computer users in the loop? If you've got older people that aren't using computers and so much of your content is computer delivered, how do you keep them in the loop?
Well, that's the bulletin. I mean, that's really the reason why we continue to do a bulletin. It's a time-consuming, it's a costly thing to do, but it's an effective way for people to get information that are coming to your services. In fact, I'm going to do a breakout session at MinistryCOM,
right.
And the name of that breakout session is Don't Throw Out the Bulletin, and we're going to talk about needing to know your audience and what are the best ways in which to communicate to that audience. And I've heard a lot of discussion about we're just going to throw our bulletin out. That may work great in some churches, but I don't think it would in 80, 90%.
A lot of churches, right?
Yeah.
Right. A question came in about, do you promote, or how do you promote standing events that happen every week at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do those make the bulletin? How do you promote those?
I'm trying to think of anything, a lot of the things that we're promoting are something that's just brand new that's kicking off, or they've got a restart date. So things that just happen on a regular basis, we may emphasize those once every 3 months, once every quarter, maybe twice a year, but we really don't go through and just have a standing article that's in our bulletin for something that happens on a regular basis. And the reason why we don't do that is because we've got limited landscape. There's only so much real estate that's in the bulletin to where we can go through and put that information out. So to put something in there and say it's going to be in there till Jesus comes back, it's taking up space for other people to be able to use to promote their information. So no, we don't do that, not regularly.
Do you have a copywriter? Is there someone on staff that's determined to be your copywriter, or is that
No, we actually let our ministers turn the articles in, but then we've got editorial privileges. And what we're trying to do is to use as much of the content that they have, but then trying to make it to where it looks like it's been written by one person. So we're trying to standardize some of the typical Henderson Hills ease, specific words just to Henderson Hills. We're trying to make that to where it's understandable by somebody who's brand new to our church as well. So that's where I step in. That's where Eric and Lindsay step in, and we try to edit that type of those type of words out, but then also edit out the fluff. Like, this is going to be a super ginormous, incredible, awesome camp.
15 exclamation points.
Yeah.
with their
yeah.
exclamation points? Right?
So we take all of those adjectives out for them.
Okay, I'm going to throw in a question that I haven't seen yet, but after 5 years of MinistryCOM, I can already tell you, people are sitting shaking their heads going, oh, this would never work. I know Henderson's kind of matured in their leadership, but what advice do you offer the person that says, the two biggest problems I have on Thursdays and Fridays are the senior pastor, senior pastor's wife, coming in and saying, this will be in the bulletin, make it so.
Yeah.
How do you get from there to where you guys are, where apparently your staff's all trained to follow orders on Tuesday and then you missed it?
Well, I wouldn't say that happens all the time. Okay, this is not a flawless system by any means that we have, but because we're not just printing 50 copies. It takes, how long does it take to print all the bulletins?
It takes about three hours, maybe 4 hours if the printer is going real smoothly and there's no hiccups.
Which we won't even go into that process. So, it's a time-consuming process from the laying out to the printing of it, to the folding of it, to the stuffing of it, to getting it out. So we have to set deadlines. And just like a pastor has a deadline, he knows that Sunday's coming every week. As far as I know, it's never
It
changed.
hasn't changed that I've seen.
Yeah. So if we can, what we've tried to do is say, if we have enough time to do this, we can make it look good. But if we're having to wait till the last minute and make decisions, then it is not going to look good.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried to throw the ball back into people's courts. How do you want this to look? We want it to look good, and we want to be as creative as we can to communicate the message. But to do that, there's got to be a give and take process. And I think it's just, Terrell, I would say the best advice I could give is to start a dialogue with them. Help them to help the person, whether it's the senior pastor or it's his secretary or it's his wife, whoever it is. Just start a dialogue with them to say, hey, here are some of the frustrations that I'm having. Here's the things that I would really like to accomplish. I want to make sure that this is an effective tool, but it's not being effective, and here are some of the reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
And that Monday meeting really is an open communication thing, and all the pastoral staff is there, so it's really good for them to see everything that's going on within the church and how we are reaching everyone. And so that really does help everything with the communication.
And we just re-emphasize over and over again, we have to have it by 4. If you turn it into us at 4 on Wednesday instead of 4 on Tuesday, it's not getting in. It's not getting in. I can only think of maybe 2 times that we've had to reprint the whole entire bulletin after it was already printed.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thanks to all you guys for coming and sharing this. Appreciate everybody that came in to watch this. We will have a recording of this online, so if you want to share this with your church friends. We also have the files that they talked about are online. If you go to the page with the link here, the MinistryCOM.org/live, there's a link to the PDFs that they sent. Next month's webcast is Thursday, June 17th. It'll be the third Thursday, June 17th. It'll be, again, noon Central Time, the same time zone this is in. We're going to bring in some guests next month and talk about website tips and tricks and using the web. You can set up for reminders on the website. Also, we've got MinistryCOM coming up October 20th, 22nd. Help us spread the word. Sign up for that. Jeff's going to be there. He's going to give us a quick one sentence or two about your session there.
It's going to be, the title of it is Don't Throw Out the Bulletin, and what we're going to look at is creating and using different types of media to get the information out the most effectively.
Cool.
So we're going to look at a broad range of things.
Cool. Well, I hope you guys will come back next month, invite your friends, get a group together. I mean, we'd really love to see these meetings be a kickoff for a group. So when we sign off the air, then you've got a local group that you can talk to and ask some more questions and talk to each other. So for MinistryCOM for this month, thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.
There we go.